Good morning, everybody. My name is, as you know by now, Richard Duffy. I am the Vice President of Partner Enablement here at Acumatica. And on behalf of all of us here at Acumatica, I'd like to welcome you to today's session. And what we're going to be doing in today's session, as you know, this is the Partner Marketing University. Last week we split, or I let you know, or that was the week before, I let you know that we would be splitting our sessions up into two separate streams that would be operating on alternate Fridays. So last Friday we did the Demo University, and today we're doing the Partner Marketing University. Now, for those of you who weren't able to make it along to the last session, you'll be able to find the last session now is actually up on my YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/Duffy Richard. And very, very shortly, i.e., if it's not already up there now, within the next hour, it will be up on the Acumatica YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch the last session. So what we're doing in this week's session is we are continuing on from that session. And you'll recall the last thing that we talked about in our last university session was this idea of committing to a value proposition. Now, for those of you who didn't join the last session, let me just quickly summarize what we talked about in our last session. What we talked about was we started talking about this idea of getting the fundamentals right. We started off talking about our definition of marketing, and that is getting people with a need for your product or service to know, like, and trust you. Everything we do from a marketing tactics perspective is about one of those things. And it's important. Getting people to know and like you is critical, but building that trust is even more critical, as you can see from this Nielsen information. Now, people then said, okay, that's great, Richard. Getting them to know, like, and trust me is all very well, but how do I do that? I'm not a marketing graduate. I'm not a marketing guru. I'm not a marketing expert. Well, guess what? Neither am I. But what I have found is I've discovered that marketing is a system. And it's a system that consists of making sure you have your strategy before you start executing tactics, that you have all the necessary assets in what we call the marketing hourglass that enables you to do that, to execute on the strategy, that you focus on making sure that you're publishing educational content, because this is the new world. People are looking to be educated about what it is that we do, which is fundamentally selling and implementing ERP solutions. You need to make sure you create a total web presence, a digital hub whereby everyone can find out and everything that you have to offer and engage with you. You need to use a lead generation trio, make sure that your sales process is a system, and you need to live by the calendar. So then we started talking about strategy before tactics. We said the first thing you need to do is define your ideal customer, define the definition of what makes them ideal, right? Is there a customer versus an individual transaction? They value what it is that you do that's different to all your competitors. You can make money from them, so they're profitable for you. They already refer people to you. So you look at the people that you have in your customer base today and see who does this. Which of your customers actually maps to this? That's your ideal customer. And then you go through and you map the characteristics of those most profitable customers against things like demographics. Where do you find them? Demographics, what do they look like? What's their revenue profile? How many employees do they have? What industry are they in? Geographics, where are they located? Psychographics, how do they think? And behavior, what are the things that they do that help you identify them? And then we started talking about this idea of being able to commit to a value proposition. Now, I'm doing one-on-one sessions with a number of you. And probably some of you who I'm doing those one-on-one sessions, maybe you're on today's Marketing University. But for those of you who I'm not doing the one-on-one sessions with yet, part of the idea behind the Marketing University is I'm going to take that concept of doing the one-on-ones and try and deliver it out to you, or to everybody now through this one-to-many process. But those of you who are doing the one-on-ones will know that before we even start talking about the tactics that you need to execute, you need to be able to identify and explain to people what it is that you do and what it is that you do that is different. and what it is that you do that is different and that applies specifically to them as a company in a specific industry with a specific set of problems that you are focused on solving. So hopefully that makes sense. So then how do you build that value proposition? Well, oftentimes for a lot of people, they struggle with this idea. They struggle with this idea of how do I articulate what it is that we do? How do I make sure that I can explain that in a way that my customers can understand? Well, the first and most important thing is knowing exactly what it is that is the value that you deliver. And many partners I speak to, I ask them, thinking about the last 3 implementations you did. What was the specific business value that customer got as a result of implementing the software? Not necessarily Acumatica. I'm not talking about, Acumatica as a product right now. I'm talking about whatever product it was that you implemented for them. What was the specific business value that they got from that? And you know what? If you're sitting there thinking, gee, Richard, don't ask me that question because I really couldn't answer that off the top of my head, well, you're not Robinson Crusoe. All right, you're not on your own. Not most, that's a broad statement. Many partners I've spoken to don't know, because once they've closed the deal and they've made the sale, what do? We focus on the technical components of the delivery, right? Does the software work? Are the reports generating the correct values? Is the customer able to generate an order? Can they send out an invoice? Can they ship their product? Can they bill for time? We tend to focus on those specific things. But then when we go back and say, okay, what was the positive business impact that this had on them? Many partners don't know. All right, I talk about this concept of when you get started with the ERP implementation, what's the first rule of being an ERP partner? It's like being a doctor. First, do no harm. Don't bring the customer's business to his knees in the process of implementing a new system, right? So we tend to focus on that. We don't often spend a lot of time going back and saying, okay, so what's the positive business impact that I've been able to generate? Was I able to reduce their day sales outstanding from 90 days to 60 days? Were we able to turn their unsold inventory into working capital? And where are the specific measurable benefits that we delivered to the customer? So if that's the case, then in order for you to build a value proposition which is based on what you have done for other customers, which is basically what you're going to be able to potentially do for new customers, and that's your value proposition about the business benefit that you deliver. If you don't know what that is, then the first thing you have to do is you have to go and figure that out, okay? So you're going to have to go back and start asking your existing customers, and I'm just going to go and quickly check if there are any questions here that have come up, just to make sure everybody's able to hear me. No, all good, no questions, so that's fine. Let's just dive back then into our PowerPoint presentation, and I'll go back into my slideshow. Sorry about that, folks. So then the first thing you've got to do is you've got to go back and you've got to engage with those existing customers, and you have to find out the answers to those questions. Right? So the best thing that you can do is to go ahead and do a customer insight survey. Now, this is not something that you've put together a spreadsheet and you email the spreadsheet out to the customer, or you put together a Survey Monkey survey, or if you're using Constant Contact and you're using the survey capabilities there. This is not an impersonal tick the boxes, fill out a spreadsheet activity. All right, this is something that is, if you do it right, this is going to give you everything that you need to be able to and I'm not to get into hyperbole and start talking it up more than what it is, but I truly believe this. If you do this the right way, the information you get from this process will absolutely revolutionize the way that you go to market and the way that your marketing activities happen. Because if you identify those ideal customers, and these are customers that you would like to have more of, all right? They're customers you would like to have more of. If you can find out why those people bought from you and build a replicatable or replicable, depending on which way you like to articulate that, if you could build a replicable process of finding people just like that, engaging with them in a sales cycle, engaging with them in a marketing cycle first and foremost, then engaging with them in a sales cycle, then you're going to be in absolutely great shape. So what do? You go out and you identify in your existing customer base today who are the 10 or 20, depending, but it should at least be 10% of your customer base or 10 customers in order to get a statistically relevant sample. Now, if you don't have that many customers that you can get to either 10% or 10, whichever is greater, then potentially you need to look at how you manage this process. And maybe you've only got 3 you can call. Well, 3 is better than none. Okay, but then it potentially changes the nature of what this needs to be. I'll come back and talk about that in a second. But you identify that 10% of customers or those 10 customers that you can go out and you can engage them in a discussion around these points. So let me give you a classic scenario of how I would do this. You've identified one of these customers and there's somebody who you like doing business with them, they like doing business with you, they trust you, you trust them, and it's all good. So you pick up the phone. Let's say the CEO's name is Julie. All right, so Julie is the CEO. So you pick up the phone and you ring Julie and say, "Hi, Julie, this is Richard from Acumatica. Julie, I wanted to ask you a favor. Julie, one of the things that we're looking at right now is how do we take our business to the next level? How do we find more customers? And Julie, to be honest, we'd like more customers just like you, because I think it's clear, and hopefully you agree with me, Julie, we deliver value for you. You've told us many times that you appreciate what it is that we do. Our people like coming out and spending time with your team. So you are what we define as an ideal customer. So, Julie, I'm hoping that you could give me maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe half an hour, if I was to set up a time to come out and sit down with you face to face and ask you a couple of questions. And Julie, I'll bring some donuts and coffee. I know you love Krispy Kreme donuts, so I'll go and get some Krispy Kreme donuts. And a worst case scenario, hopefully you'll get something from the exercise, but worst case scenario, you'll get some calories from spending some time with me. But I'd like to come out and ask you some questions. Is that okay? And hopefully Julie says, yeah, sure, that's fine. And then you organize a time to sit down with them, with Julie. So when you get out there and you're with Julie and you've gone through all the niceties and the pleasantries, she's had 2 or 3 Krispy Kreme donuts, so her systems are surging full of sugar. You've had a couple, so you're full of sugar as well. Add some caffeine and you'll both be bouncing off the walls. But, then you get into the discussion. Now, this is really critical. You're going to have a discussion with them. You're going to ask them, why did you buy from us? Now, you don't necessarily turn this into a tax audit, right? You're not from the tax department, you're not from the government, and you're here to help. This is not a tax audit. You work these questions into the conversation. So you might say something like, Julie, this might sound like a really crazy question to ask. I think I've got an idea of why you bought from us. I'm going to keep that to myself for now. But let me just ask you, thinking back to when you first became a customer for us, why did you hire us? Why did you buy your software from us? And then shut up. Let your customer answer. Whatever you do, don't give them a multiple choice. Did you buy from us because we have, certified staff, because, our prices were excellent, and blah, 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 blah. Because you know what? As soon as you give them those multiple choices, they want to make you happy. They're going to assume that you want one of those answers. So they'll give you one. And that might not necessarily be the right answer, but you've given them a multiple choice and they'll give you one of those answers. So you ask the question and you shut up. And then what you do is you write down the answer that they give you. And I guarantee you that the answer that they give you will not be what you thought. They're going to tell you something like, well, you know what? Out of all of the vendors that we contacted, you were the guys who actually showed up. You were the guys who showed an interest in our business, or they'll give you the answer. You were the guys that did X. And hopefully there's multiple X's. You were the guys that did this, and then you did that, and then you did this, and then you did that. And guess what? If you're listening and you're writing it down, and here's a suggestion, maybe you might ask for permission to record the session so you don't miss anything, okay? You record the session. If you've got an iPhone or an Android, they've all got voice recording tools. So you just say, Julie, would you mind? I want to make sure I don't miss anything that you tell me. So would you mind if I recorded this session? Hit the record button, put it down, put the device down, and then just talk. Just have a conversation. And so Julie will give you these answers. And then the next question you say, well, that's great, and I really appreciate you giving us that feedback. And it's good to hear that, that those were the things that worked really, really well. Focusing on the positive still, Julie, what's the one thing that we do that you really love? What is it? What is the one thing we do that you really love? She'll give you the answer. So the key to this is ask the question and then shut up. Sorry, I hope you don't mind me using the term shut up. I could say be quiet, but I'm Australian and we're a little bit blunt and direct and a little bit politically incorrect. But yeah, you ask the question, then you shut up. And then you say, well, you get the answer to that. What's the one thing we do that others don't? And then shut up. If you were to refer us, Julie, to somebody else, what would you say about us? Tell me 3 other companies that you really like because there's certain things that they do for you. And then you can even say, is there something that those other companies do that you wish that we did that we currently don't? And then the one-word test. Julie, thinking about our organization and thinking about everything that we do for you and all of these different things, what's the one word that you would apply that describes our organization? Okay, what's the one word? Now I'm going to add one additional question into this because I think it's really important. Lots of you have had conversations with me about search engine optimization for your websites, and lots of you are doing pay-per-click campaigns and all this kind of stuff. Well, if you're trying to find a customer like Julie through your search engine optimization and your pay-per-click, maybe it would be good to ask Julie the question, Julie, if you were looking for a company that does what we do, what would you type into Google to find us? All right? And then there's your search engine optimization terms. Now, this doesn't work particularly well when you've got a sample of one, like one customer. You go out and you ask one customer and you base everything on that one customer. This is why you've got to do it with a statistically relevant sampling, which is at least 10% of your customer base. Now, if you've only got 10 customers and 10% of your customer base is one customer, then you've got a bigger challenge and you're going to potentially have to go out to more than 10%. But you really need to get a minimum of 5 customers where you get this insight. Now, here's a suggestion. Have you ever thought of inviting all of your customers in, buying them pizza and beer or whatever you see as appropriate, and running a customer advisory board? In the marketing toolkit, there is a document which explains to you the best way to run a customer advisory board. Many people, I know some of you are Sage partners in the past, maybe you still are. You haven't made that 100% commitment to focus purely on Acumatica. It's up to us to help you to get to that point where you feel that's an appropriate thing for you to do. But I know this is one thing that I think Sage have done, and also Microsoft might have done, where they offered, depending on the size of your organization, they might have offered to come in and run a customer advisory board for you. You don't need to go and hire an external firm. It's not a big, difficult process. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be able to run it. In the marketing toolkit, there is a document which explains to you step by step how to run a customer advisory board. Why not set up a customer advisory board that meets once every quarter? And then guess what? They are the people, if that's made up of your ideal customers, every time you're going to do something, you're going to launch a new service offering, you're going to change your pricing, you're going to take on a new product, you're going to execute a new marketing campaign. Why don't you run it past those people first and ask them, hey, what do you think of this? How would you respond? Would you respond? Do you think, what's your feedback on how we could do this better, differently, make it more effective, or whatever the case may be? So again, the secret to this is asking for feedback, getting that information. Now, many of you have been in business for quite some time, and you already know, or maybe you think you know. I used to spend a lot of time thinking I knew things. And because I thought I knew things, I assumed that because I was a smart guy that I was right. But when you go out and you start pressure testing that by asking your target market about these things, one of the things that I found when I started doing that, I found out that I was probably in 75% of the cases, I was kind of close to being right. But by asking my target market, it gave me that extra piece of information I needed to know to be effective. So remember, how do we start off with this? We're building our value proposition. So then we need to do the customer insight survey. Now, I'm going to take you through detailed step-by-step sessions on each one of these topics over the next X number of months that we're together working in the Partner Marketing University. All right, so this is not the first and last time. Well, it's probably, maybe for some of you, it's the first time you've heard me talk about this, but it's not the last time. And we're going to start drilling down on each one of these things in much more detail. One of the things I'm also going to try and do is get some external organizations and some external folks to come in and be able to share their knowledge and their understanding around how to execute some of these things in such a way that makes these Partner Marketing University sessions much more value for you. So what then happens? All right, you've now done your customer insight survey. Well, how do I take that and turn it into my value proposition? Well, a good way of doing this is then to think about doing what I like to call, building your value proposition. And now here's an example of how all of this comes together. And this is totally unrelated to our industry, but I'm going to give you this one, and then I'm going to tell you how I do this, right? How I do this for myself, okay? Because that's probably a worthwhile exercise. Well, hopefully you'll think it's a worthwhile exercise, not just me talking about myself again. Enough about me. What do you think about me? To quote Bette Midler from that film Beaches. I don't know if any of you saw that. Yes, I am a raging egomaniac, but I don't just want to talk about myself. On that point, if you would like to contribute some thoughts to one of these particular sessions, if you have a best practice that's worked effectively well, that's a tautology, that's worked effectively or has worked well for you, and you would like to present it to the broader group, just send me an email. I'd love to have you present on what has or even hasn't worked for you. Remember, each one of these sessions, we're going to do a tactic du jour, the tactic of the day. So we're going to talk about strategy and a little bit about tactics. So again, my invitation to you, if you'd like to present, just let me know and we'll slot you in and you can do a presentation. But anyway, a case study. There's a couple of things that you want to do in order to build your value proposition, right? You need to be able to have 4 things that help you build that value proposition. You need to be able to explain what you do for a living. You need to have a complimentary statement that explains how you do that. You need to have a positioning goal, which says, how do you want people to think of you? And then you need to be able to construct that down to a core marketing message. This is exactly what we did at Acumatica to build our messaging and positioning guide. Hopefully all of you have seen the messaging and positioning guide. If you haven't, we talked about it in the very first session that I did for the for the demo university. It's in the marketing toolkit and it's in the sales toolkit as well. All right, so we went kind of through this process, but here's an example for an architectural firm. Now, what do you think architects do? Well, architects design and build buildings. Well, yeah. So how do you differentiate yourself as an architect? Well, this was an example of an architectural firm that said, you know what, we do design and build. And who usually hires these kinds of organizations? Well, contractors. Okay, so a building contractor will hire a design and build architect. But what do the contractors want? Okay, what is the primary problem that building contractors have that they struggle with, that they would like somebody to solve for them? Well, the primary problem that this architect found out that these contractors had was getting paid faster. And where was the primary problem that stopped them from getting paid faster? Was making sure that all of the compliance work was done up front. Okay, so for this particular architect's firm, they worked out that the answer to the question, what do you do for a living, was not, oh, we are design and build architects. What they actually did for a living was they help contractors get paid faster. So what you're trying to do is you are trying to figure out for your organization, what is it that you do for a living? Now, if I was to ask most of you on this call, what do you do for a living? I guarantee you, most of you would answer that question, and we're going to get into a little bit more interactivity in future sessions, okay, once we've established our fundamentals. But if I was to ask you, what do you do for a living? Chances are probably a lot of you would say, well, we implement ERP software. And maybe you might insert brand X. We implement Acumatica ERP, Cloud ERP, or we sell and implement Sage 100, or we sell and implement Dynamics GP, or whatever the case may be. And to a certain extent, you're right. That's the mechanics of what you do. But it's not really the benefit of what you do. Nobody, I've said this a million times, here comes 1,000,001. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today my life will be complete if I buy a new ERP system. They say, today my life will be complete if I turn my unsold inventory into cash, if I get a bigger share of my customers' spend, if I'm able to increase my customer service. Okay, so they try and solve a problem. So your answer to the question, what do you do for a living, really has to be around that problem. Okay, I help durable goods wholesalers turn unsold inventory into cash, or I help food manufacturers reduce wastage and increase quality management, because those are the things that are important to those kinds of customers, right? So you basically need to articulate it that way. So then hopefully you're going to be able to articulate that in such a way that people then go, how do you do that? So for example, people ask me, Richard, what do you do for a living? And I say to them, I help Acumatica partners generate a stream of well-qualified leads, turn those leads into customers, and keep those customers for life. So people then usually go, okay, well, that's what I'd like. I'd like a stream of well-qualified leads. I'd like to be able to turn those leads into customers and keep those customers for life. That's what I want. So as long as my explanation of what I do for a living is meaningful to my target market, which is you, those of you who are on this call, hopefully the next question you've got is, how do you do that? So in this particular situation for the architect, as they say, we have developed a unique zoning adjustment compliance system that enables us to do X, Y, Z. In my situation, I answer that by saying, I do that by helping partners implement a systematic approach to marketing, sales, and pre-sales based on best practices, together with 25 years of experience that I have of working as a partner and with partners building this approach, right? So what do you do for a living? How do you do it? That's what you need to build. And if you can do that, if you can get those two things right, then everything, I guarantee it, everything you do from a marketing perspective going forwards will be so much easier. Now, the usual question, or let's call it an objection, that I get from partners at this point in time when I'm having this discussion is people usually come back to me and they say, Richard, that's great, but what if we've got more than one kind of customer? What if we sell to durable goods wholesalers and we sell to professional services firms and we sell to, food manufacturers? Well, my answer to that is then potentially you actually need to have 4 of these definitions. You need to have an overarching one, which is your core marketing message, okay? But then you need to have a specific message for each of those target markets, because you cannot really effectively articulate what your value proposition is in one instance for 3 completely different businesses. Now that then begs the question, can you effectively sell to those 3 different kinds of organizations that have completely different functional requirements, completely different problems that they want you to come in and solve for them? Well, depending on the size of your organization and the skill set of your people, maybe you can. But I would question whether or not you can actually do that effectively for more than 2 or 3 different industries. But again, you will know what works for you. So then you want to come up with a positioning goal or a statement. And then this is, how do you want people to think about you? Okay, what is it that you want them, when they think about you, when they come back and they give you that one-word answer or that one phrase that describes how they think of you? This is what you want to be kind of working towards. We want to be the number one or the ERP provider of choice for food manufacturers in the Scottsdale district. Okay, that's what we want to be. That's what we're working towards. And then your core marketing message. Your core marketing message might be the food manufacturer's technology partner. That's what we want to be. We are the food manufacturer's technology partner. All right? So I'm summarizing this in a very, very short session and in a very short and quick way. We're going to drill down this in more detail, but that's kind of where you need to get to. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause for a second and I'm going to open up for any questions. So for those of you who are paying attention, and right now my go-to training panel is telling me that of the 100% of you, 27% of you are 31% of you are paying attention, 35 more of you are paying attention. So good. Let me ask you, on the basis of what we've talked about right now, does anybody have any questions? And I'll open the floor for questions. If you've got a question, please put your hand up. Okay, if you've got a question, put your hand up, and you can do that by raising your hand, clicking on the raise hand icon in the go-to training control panel. Any questions so far? Any feedback? Does anybody want to raise a particular issue or anything like that? Anyone? Feel free to also go ahead and put something in the chat if you want to. Questions? And I'm going to ask you a question. How are we going? Is what I'm talking with you about of value? Am I covering the kinds of things that you think are valuable, that are going to help you build a marketing strategy? Okay, so I'm getting some yeses. Yes, yes. No one said no. Richard, you're an idiot and you're wasting my time. Okay, good question. Jacqueline has just asked the question, do I think recording the customer is a little invasive? Well, Jacqueline, it depends on how you do it. I used to do this all the time, and guess what? There's now technology that enables you to do it to make it less invasive, but you always have to ask for permission. So take a look at the Live Scribe pens. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a Live Scribe pen. As you're writing notes, it also allows you to record what's going on. So take a look at that, but that's the technology side of it. The answer to your question, Jacqueline, is if you position it as being valuable to the customer, then absolutely not. It's not invasive. So here's how I would do it. And you know what? When I was doing implementations, I used to record all of our implementation discussions as well. And I'd put it like this. Let's say I'm doing having a discussion with you, Jacqueline. I would say, Jacqueline, you're going to give me some hopefully you're going to give me some really good information in the next hour that we're together. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. And you know what? Back in the office, I've actually got 5 other people who I'd like to get their feedback and their opinion and get their insights on the things that you've told me. In order for me to do that, it would be really great if I could record our discussion. And I'll be more than happy to give you a copy of the recording. Matter of fact, I'll give you a copy of the recording right at the end. And then what we talk about is going to become part of our implementation documentation. All right? Because I want to make sure that I don't make any promises that we don't keep. So as long as you turn it, Jacqueline, into a positive that's beneficial for the customer, I have not yet had anybody say to me, no, I'd prefer it if you didn't. Because if they do say, no, I'd prefer it if you didn't, then that's a red flag. All right, it's a red flag. You just need to figure out, why is it a red flag? Do they not trust you? Are they saying things which aren't true? Is the person you're talking to talking out of school? Are they not actually the person inside the organization who has the responsibility to be having that discussion with you? So they don't want to be caught. They don't want to be taken out of context. Okay, make sense? Good. Okay, so thank you, Jacqueline. Thanks for the feedback. Any other questions? Nope. All right, good. So then let's dive back in. Let's dive back into our presentation and let's continue on. So then that's what we're actually trying to do. Now, if you can take all of these things together, if you can put all of these things together, the answers to these questions that we talked about before, the customer insight survey, what is it effectively going to enable you to do? It's going to enable you to build that value proposition, because your value proposition is the answer to these questions. So when you're sitting in the, let's say you are sitting in, and there we go. There goes my reminder for my next session. I usually end up doing back-to-back sessions all day, so apologies for that popped up. I really should switch that off before I run these sessions. Anyway, if you think about it, you're sitting in the reception area of your biggest prospect. Okay, you're there for a meeting with the selection committee. The CEO of the company walks into the room and comes to you and asks you the question, who are you and why are you here? This gives you the ability to answer that question. All right. This gives you it's almost like an elevator pitch. Okay. It's your ability to quickly capture their attention. And ideally, they then say, well, that sounds fantastic. Have you got a couple of minutes you can come and talk to me more about that? So let me give you a scenario. You're sitting there, CEO comes up to you and they says, who are you and why are you here? Well, I might answer that. Well, my name's Richard Duffy. I'm here. I represent Acumatica. and we help. And let's say, for example, I should have given you a little bit more context. Let's say this company, for example, is a distributor of durable goods. So that's the scenario. Hi, my name is Richard Duffy. I'm from Acumatica, and we help durable goods wholesalers get paid faster and turn their unsold inventory into working capital. Now, why did I pick those statements? Because I know they work. I know they're going to resonate. And I know that CEO is going to go, that's exactly what we need. Now, I could either wait for them to say, how do we do that? Or I could say, and you know what? Those might sound like some pretty broad claims, but let me tell you just quickly how we do that. We do that by implementing best practices based on more than 25 years of experience in implementing these solutions for customers just like yours. We have more than 150 years of experience in implementing those solutions. And those solutions are built on the very latest enterprise resource planning technology from Acumatica, which is designed to help your people work from anywhere at any time on any device. We help you take control of your business. We help you empower your people, and we also help you play to your strengths. So you're really in a position where by going through this exercise, you're able to construct that statement. Now, if you're thinking, that all sounds great, Richard, but I need a bit more help with that. One of the things that we're doing is we are training up all of our partner account managers to help you be able to, or to be able to work with you to help you do this. And of course, I am available to help you. So if you would like to do a session, a one-on-one session with me where we go through this process, where I work with you, either face-to-face if I'm in town or remotely, because all this can be done remotely, where we work together with you to help you build this statement, I'm more than happy to do that. Reach out to your partner account manager and request a session, and we'll get something scheduled in. All right? So hopefully you understand the concept now behind this. So then let's drill down and let's look at the next piece. So now what have you got? You've got your core marketing position. So you now know what it is that you do, who it is you do it for, and how you're going to explain it. So then the next thing is you need to build your marketing hourglass. And this is the tactic du jour, all right? This is the tactic of the day. This is one of the things that I want you to take away, and between now and the next Marketing University session, I'd love it if you could do this. Those of you who are at the summit would have probably seen my session where I talked about enabling you as our partner. Now, all of these sessions are going to be available on our new website. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share with you next week a link where you can go and you can access and you can view all of the recorded sessions from the summit, and a whole bunch more as well, the things that I talked to you about in some of our previous demo university sessions, all this video enablement content that we've made available for you. But one of the things I want you to do is I want you to go into the marketing toolkit. Inside the marketing toolkit, you're going to find a PDF document, which is basically this marketing hourglass. I want you to take that PDF document and I want you to take it down to your local FedEx, and I want you to get them to print that up in a poster size, and I want you to get them to laminate that for you using what's called dry erase lamination. It'll cost you about $35 to do it. And then you put that up on your wall. Guess what? Here at Acumatica, we've got one of these stuck up on our wall. Okay, because what this is going to help you do, it's going to help you identify the pieces that you need to engage with customers in the marketing cycle. So if you think about it, we talk about the sales funnel and how you push people through a sales funnel. Well, marketing is the same. We have a funnel, except for us, the funnel never ends. You get to a certain point, like an hourglass, where the sand and the sand being the representation of your potential customer. They move through the process with you of getting to know who you are, getting to like your organization, beginning to trust you. Then they pass through that center point in the marketing hourglass, and then they try what you have to offer. Right now, that trying what you have to offer, that could be attending one of your events, that could be engaging with you in a sales cycle, whatever it could be. Then they buy from you. Then they buy again from you. They buy more modules, they buy more services, and then they repeat buy, right? That's what we're talking about there. And then they refer other people to you. All right? And then those other people, you then feed them into the top of the marketing hourglass. And then you start feeding them through this process of getting them to know, like, and trust you. So it's a little bit like, like the instructions that come on your shampoo: rinse and repeat. Okay? Wash, rinse, and repeat. So what the marketing hourglass helps you to do is it helps you to think in a structured way about what are the things that you need to have in place to get people to go through this process. How do you get them to know you? What are the things that you have in place today that help a customer get to know you? Maybe it's your website. Maybe it's your search engine marketing activities that you're doing. Maybe it's your pay-per-click. Maybe it's the email campaigns that you run. So those are the things that you do to get them to know you. Maybe you don't have enough there in the things that you need to do to get them to know you. So then you look at the next stage and you fill in the missing pieces. Then you say, okay, now they know me. That's great. They know I exist. They're not going to take any action unless they like me. How do you get somebody to like you? You get them to like you by delivering something for them that without any expectation of a return. So what have I got that delivers value to my target customer? What information do I have that they need that if I give it to them with no expectation of any return, they're going to begin to like me? So this is white papers. This is, educational content. And this is where we start talking about one of the steps in our systematic approach to marketing is educational content is really, really important. Okay? And not just the same content that we've built and handed off to you, and then you stick that up on your website and go, well, that's that job done. I can dust my hands off and that's taken care of. Guess what? They're buying from you. So you have to supplement that content. You have to take what we do and you have to rewrite it. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, this is all too hard. I've said it a million times. I'll say it a million times in the future. It is hard. It is difficult, but it's worthwhile doing, because if you don't do this stuff, you will never solve the problem that is called, for many of you, marketing and lead generation. These things are really, really important. Okay? So that's how all this works. So if you think about it, this marketing hourglass is really all about doing that. Okay? It's all about identifying, how do I get people in? And we traditionally think about the sales funnel, and we think about marketing as an extension of the sales funnel. But the funnel is broken. And what we're going to do in our next Marketing University session is I'm going to take you through and we're going to talk in a lot more detail around how you resolve this challenge of how the funnel is broken. We're going to start to talk about the different ways, the different tactics that you're going to be able to do to get people to start to engage with you and to begin that process of getting them to know, like, and trust you. So we're going to talk about the fact that the funnel is broken. And we're going to talk about what you need to do from a lead and referral generation process. Because I think it's clear that when it comes to lead and referral generation, a happy customer is the best tool. So we need to think about some of your customers that you have, what it is that you do that makes them happy, what it is that you've done that made them happy, and turn those things into consumable content. It's a difficult concept, but when we kick off next week, this is where we're going to start. We're going to start off by looking at the different components that can go into your marketing hourglass and you can use to build this whole process of know, like, and trust. So with that, I'm going to wrap up our presentation today, and I am going to quickly dive across and see if there are any questions or any feedback that you have before we wrap up. We've got 4 more minutes left. Any final questions about any of the things that we've talked about today? Oh, great. Thank you. I've got a little bit of feedback there about our new website. FYI, the new Acumatica website has gone live. Please, if you haven't done so yet, go and check it out. This is version 1 of our website as well. What you're going to see over the next 3 to 6 months is that website is going to grow, expand, and you should look to that website to be a true example of the things that I'm talking to you about here. So all of the tactics, all of the strategies that I'm talking about, you will see those things demonstrated, provided as examples for you in our new website. And by the way, the week after next, we'll also be launching our new partner portal. Okay, and the new partner portal will be, again, just as easy to navigate as the main Acumatica website. And don't forget, maybe I might make this our tactic du jour for next week. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe how to use structure and build an effective website. Okay, now that in and of itself is probably 5 to 10 1-hour sessions, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that level of detail in the Marketing University. This is not just something which is going to happen today, next week, and the week after, and then we wrap it up and that's the end of the story. The Demo University and the Marketing University will continue on in perpetuity because, like I said in one of my other sessions, the one thing I know to be true is that learning never stops. Best practice, today's best practice is not tomorrow's best practice. Albert Einstein once said, you cannot solve tomorrow's problems with today's thinking. So the great thing about being in this industry is there's always something new to learn, and hopefully we'll always have something new to teach you. So with that, I want to thank you for taking time to join us for today's session. I will, once again, wrap up today's session, put it up onto YouTube. So for those of you who want to review it again, you'll be able to do that. For those of you who want to share it with other people in your organization, hopefully you figure it's worth sharing. If you want to go back and review it, you'll be able to see it there. And I look forward to seeing you same time next week for the Demo University. So next week is the Demo University. And next week, we're going to have Gene Gear is going to be talking with us about how to compete effectively with our very good friends at NetSuite. As well as that, I'm actually going to kick off our official training sessions on pre-sales as well. Okay, so we're going to start drilling down and looking at the theory and the practice of pre-sales. All right, so look forward to speaking to you next week. Again, please reach out to me via email, rduffy@acumatica.com, if you've got any feedback, if you've got any questions, if you'd like us to cover specific topics. I am also, in next week's Demo University, going to talk a little bit more about how to use Evernote effectively, because that was a request from last Demo University from one of our attendees. I think it was from Mike Lupro. So I'm going to make sure I cover off on that in next week's Demo University as well. So again, have a great weekend, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Thank you.